Gray Paws frantically dug through the fresh earth. Clumps of black soil flew in all directions, and from the depths of the huge beast's throat came a hoarse howl that made blood run cold. "Drive it away! What is this?" shouted Andre, trying to break through the cemetery fence. Neighbors and Irina's parents held him by the arms, stopping him from rushing at the wolf, which was violently digging up his wife's grave, buried just a few hours ago. "A wild beast," screamed the mother-in-law, bursting into tears. "Andriusha, someone shoot this. Before we begin, right where you're from, subscribe, like, and watch till the end. We're starting." Gamekeeper Maxim Petrovich Vorontsov sat on the porch of his house in the village of Sosnovka, lost among the endless forests near Lake Baikal. His wrinkled hands mechanically cleaned his rifle, a movement honed by decades of service. The man was past his 50s, but still couldn't get used to loneliness. It had been 5 years since he buried his Lydia. A cold October wind blew fallen leaves across the yard. Maxim looked up at the leaden sky. Snow's coming soon, he felt it in his old bones, aching with the change in weather. "Ah, Lyda," he muttered into the emptiness. "Didn't think it'd be like this. So lonely." The phone rang inside. Maxim reluctantly got up from the creaky steps and went to the hallway, where an old phone hung on the wall. "Hello," he rasped. "Hi, Dad," came the voice of his daughter Tatiana. "How are you?" "Same as always, Tanyusha," Maxim replied, leaning against the wall. "Things are slow." "You should come visit us in Irkutsk," his daughter started again. "Why sit alone in the taiga? We have a big apartment, plenty of room." Maxim sighed. This conversation repeated like a broken record. "I can't, Tanya. My whole life is here. The taiga is like a second wife," his daughter finished for him. I know, but your health isn't getting better, Dad, and the hospital is half a day's drive from you." After the call, Maxim returned to the porch and picked up his rifle. Today he needed to check the northern sector. Poachers had been setting traps there. As he got ready, someone knocked. "Come in," Maxim called, loading his gun. At the door stood Nikolai Semyonovich, an old shaman from the Evenki camp, 20 miles from Sosnovka. Short, wiry, with a face wrinkled like the bark of an ancient larch, he looked much older than his 70 years. "Hello, Maxim," the old man said quietly, nodding. "Going to the forest?" "Yeah, need to check the traps. Poachers are getting bold," Maxim replied, eyeing the shaman. He rarely visited Sosnovka unless something was wrong. The shaman frowned and shook his head. "Be careful today. Had a bad dream. The forest has something to tell you." Maxim smirked. He respected local beliefs, but saw them as old tales mixed with taiga wisdom. "I'll manage, Nikolai Semyonovich. Not my first year in the taiga." "The ancients walked it longer, but not all came back," the shaman said softly. Then he pulled out a small beaded leather pouch. "Take this. The guardian spirits will help." Maxim accepted it out of politeness and tucked it in his pocket. "Want some tea?" he asked. "Another time," the shaman shook his head. "I'm needed. But remember, listen to the forest today." Maxim watched the old man leave, then headed down the taiga path. The forest greeted him with silence. The usual sounds, rustling leaves, squirrel chatter, bird calls, were muffled, as if nature was holding its breath. This put Maxim on edge. In 30 years of service, he'd learned to read the forest like a book. Strange, he thought, adjusting his rifle. The animals are hiding. Must be the weather. After 2 hours, he found the first trap, triggered with tufts of fur. Blood trails led into thick undergrowth. Damn poachers, Maxim thought angrily. Set traps and let animals suffer. He followed the trail and soon heard faint whimpers. Parting the branches, he saw a wolf cub, just a young one about 6 months old. Its front paw was caught in the trap, its gray fur stained with blood. "Well, look at you, little troublemaker," Maxim muttered as he carefully approached. The cub bared its teeth, trying to look fierce, but it was too weak to fight back. The gamekeeper knelt beside it. "Don't struggle, you'll only make it worse," he mumbled, pulling tools from his bag. The trap was old, with blunt teeth that crushed bones instead of cutting them. Maxim pried the iron jaws open, and the cub, now free, tried to crawl away but collapsed from exhaustion. "You won't get far," Maxim said, examining the injured paw. "No way you'll survive alone." He looked around. No mother wolf in sight. The cub must have gotten separated from its pack. No hope the family would return. In that moment, without thinking, Maxim made a decision he couldn't explain later. He wrapped the shivering cub in his jacket and carried it home. On the way, he felt the shaman's pouch in his pocket and remembered his words. Maybe this is what the forest wanted to tell me, he thought, walking faster. Back home, Maxim laid the cub on an old blanket near the stove, cleaned the wound and made a splint. Too weak to resist, the wolf just watched with amber eyes. "Hurts, I know," Maxim said, bandaging the paw. "Hold on, it'll get better." After finishing, he set out a bowl of water and boiled meat, then lit the stove and sat across from his new companion. "Well," he said, watching the cub sip water, "guess we're roommates now. What should I call you?" The cub lifted its head as if understanding. "Sever," Maxim decided, "for your silver-gray fur like the northern sky on a frosty night." For 2 weeks, Maxim barely left Sever's side. The paw healed poorly, swelling with infection. He even drove to town for antibiotics, earning shocked looks from the vet clinic staff. "That's a wolf, Petrovich," a vet friend said, handing him the medicine. "He'll return to the wild once he's strong." "Might not," Maxim shrugged. "Alone in the taiga with that leg? He'd die." Sever survived, though Maxim had doubted at first. The wolf grew stronger, though he always limped. Surprisingly, Sever never tried to escape, even when Maxim stopped tying him up. "Guess he knows he won't make it alone," Maxim told curious neighbors. Some villagers eyed the wolf warily at first, keeping kids away, but they grew used to him. Sever stayed calm, never attacked livestock, and shadowed Maxim everywhere. When Shaman Nikolai saw the wolf, he nodded knowingly. "The spirit sent you a guardian, Maxim. An old legend says, a wolf saved by a man will give its life for him." "Stop with the fairy tales," Maxim waved him off, though something inside whispered the old man was right. One winter evening, as a blizzard howled outside and Sever dozed by the stove, Maxim finally opened the shaman's pouch. Inside was a yellowed predator's fang. "Well," he murmured, "a wolf's tooth after all." Sever lifted his head, sniffed, then nudged Maxim's hand with the fang. Maxim swore the wolf's eyes flashed something almost human, recognition, understanding, some ancient wisdom beyond people. "You know something, don't you?" he whispered, scratching Sever's ear. The wolf whined softly, as if answering. By year's end, Maxim's health worsened. Decades in the taiga, old injuries and loneliness took their toll. His knees ached before storms, his back stiffened overnight, and his heart faltered. Even small tasks left him breathless. He no longer patrolled the distant woods, just sat by the window, watching snow blanket the trees. Sever lay at his feet, resting his massive head on his paws. Over the year, the wolf had grown from a pup into a large, strong animal with thick gray fur. In December, Maxim's daughter Tatiana visited and was shocked to see how much her father had weakened. "That's it, Dad," she said firmly, watching him struggle to rise from his chair. "No more playing the hero. You're coming to the city with me." "What would I even do there?" Maxim grumbled. "You'll live," Tatiana snapped. "Get proper treatment. My doctors will fix you up. And what about the house?" The old gamekeeper resisted. "We'll give it to Andrushka. Your grandson's getting married. The young ones need a home." Maxim sighed heavily. He didn't want to leave the taiga, but he knew his daughter was right. He wasn't as strong as before, and the forestry department had long hinted it was time to retire. "But what about Sever?" He nodded at the wolf, who watched the unfamiliar woman warily. Tatiana pressed her lips together. "Dad, be serious. We can't take a wild beast to the city. He should be—" "Don't you dare say, 'put down,'" Maxim growled, even standing up in anger. "He's family. I'll tell Andre to look after him." Tatiana shook her head but didn't argue. Maxim only agreed to move under one condition: nothing could happen to the wolf. A week later, Maxim's grandson Andre arrived with his fiancée Irina. At 25, Andre was as sturdy as his grandfather in his youth, working for Irkutsk's emergency services. Irina, a petite elementary school teacher, had warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. "Sosnovka hasn't changed at all," Andre said, walking through the house he hadn't seen in years. "Remember taking me hunting, Grandpa?" "I do," Maxim smiled. "Still proud of your first grouse?" "Of course," Andre laughed. "And that time I fell through the ice on Lake—" He froze when Sever stepped out of the shadows. The wolf paused in the doorway, studying the strangers. "Good Lord," Andre breathed. "So this is your pet?" Maxim nodded. "Sever, come meet them." The wolf approached slowly, sniffing. Irina instinctively hid behind Andrei. "Grandpa, I get it, but a wolf in the house is a lot," Andrei said, eyeing Sever. "He's gentle," Maxim insisted, "and a better guard than any dog. No thefts in the village since I got him." As if understanding, Sever walked up to Andrei and sat, staring into his eyes. "See, he accepts you," Maxim chuckled. "Knows your blood." Andrei cautiously reached out, and after a moment, Sever let him pet his head. Irina kept her distance, uneasy around the huge animal. "He scares me," she admitted that night in their room. "He's so big, and his eyes, like he can see right through me." "Don't worry," Andrei hugged her. "If Grandpa says he's safe, he is. If anything, I'll chain him up." Irina leaned into him. "Are we really living here? So far from the city, from everything?" "Just for now," Andrei reassured her. "We'll watch the house while Grandpa heals, then decide. Maybe we'll stay in the city after." He glanced out the window at the distant stars. "But there's something special here. I remember coming as a kid. The taiga, it pulls you in." 3 days later, Maxim packed his few belongings and left for Irkutsk with Tatiana. At their goodbye, he stroked Sever's thick fur for a long time. "Look after the house," he told the wolf. "And them too," he added, nodding at the young couple. "They're your family now." Sever watched the car until it disappeared around the bend, then slowly returned to the yard and sat by the porch like a sentry on duty. By January, Maxim had settled in with Tatiana, and the newlyweds began making the house their own. Andrei transferred to the local emergency services office, while Irina got a job at the village school. A fragile truce formed between her and Sever. The wolf accepted Andrei as his new master, but remained wary of Irina. She didn't approach him, and he kept his distance. At first, Irina struggled to adjust to life in the taiga village. A city girl, she'd never lived where the nearest cinema was 3 hours away, and the only shop kept unpredictable hours depending on the owner's mood. "Andrei, I can't do this," she complained during the first weeks. "Everyone here has known each other since birth, and they see me as an outsider. They'll get used to you," her husband reassured her. "Give it time. The people here are good. They just don't open up right away." Gradually, Irina settled in. The school welcomed her warmly. A primary school teacher was precious in a village where young people kept leaving for the city. The children loved their lively new teacher, and parents noticed the changes in their kids' learning. "Your lessons are so engaging, Irina Sergeyevna," one mother told her. "My Dima used to hate reading, but now he asks for books." Irina smiled, warmth spreading through her. Maybe she wasn't such a city girl after all. The house began to feel like home, too. Irina started small renovations, new wallpaper in the bedroom, a fresh coat of paint in the kitchen, fixing creaky floorboards. Andrei joked that Grandpa wouldn't recognize his den when he returned. They slowly connected with neighbors, too. Sosnovka's residents were a mix, native Siberians whose ancestors founded the village under the Tsars, and newcomers fleeing city life or chasing taiga romance. Elderly neighbor Anna Ilinichna often dropped by with pickles or homemade berry liqueur. "You young ones shouldn't be alone," she'd say, inspecting their home. "Time to start a family. What's a home without children?" Irina would blush while Andrei winked at her behind the old woman's back. They planned to have kids, but wanted to adjust to their new life first. Everything changed in March, when Irina shared joyful news she was pregnant. Andrei beamed, already imagining teaching his son to fish and track in the taiga. "We'll have the most wilderness-savvy baby in Sosnovka," he said, kissing her. "I'll teach him everything Grandpa taught me." Irina shook her head but secretly loved his enthusiasm. It was why she'd fallen for him. One evening, as Irina read in her chair, Sever suddenly approached and rested his muzzle on her knees. She froze in surprise. The wolf had never shown interest before. "Andrei," she whispered. "Look." Her husband chuckled. "Grandpa said wolves have sharp instincts. He must sense you're pregnant." "You think so?" Irina asked, cautiously touching Sever's fur. "Absolutely," Andrei nodded. "They sense these things." From then on, Sever became Irina's shadow, following her, sleeping by their bedroom door, watching her every move outdoors. Like a bodyguard, she laughed, growing used to his care. She even talked to him, sharing her dreams, school stories, and plans. "You know, Sever, we'll name him Maxim after Grandpa," she'd say, rubbing her belly. "He'll grow up just as strong." The wolf listened, head tilted, as if understanding. The pregnancy went smoothly. Monthly checkups at the district hospital confirmed everything's perfect. A healthy, active boy, said the gynecologist during an ultrasound. Takes after his dad. Andre grinned proudly. His prediction was right. They'd have a son. On evenings, they'd sit on the porch watching the sunset over the taiga, dreaming of the future. Andre vowed to teach their boy everything, from fishing to surviving in the wild. Irina imagined reading fairy tales to their child, teaching him letters and numbers. You know, Andre said one evening, I used to think living in this taiga village was temporary, that we'd return to the city. But now, maybe we should stay. Clean air, good people, plenty of space for our child to grow. Irina grew thoughtful. At first, she'd believed she'd never adjust to life far from civilization. Yet slowly, Sosnovka had become home. She'd grown to love the quiet evenings, the scent of the taiga after rain, the villagers' sincerity. I wouldn't mind, she finally replied, but let's decide after the birth. We don't know how things will go. Andre nodded and hugged her shoulders. Just then, Sever, lying at their feet, suddenly lifted his head and stared toward the forest. What is it? Andre followed the wolf's gaze. Sever stood, his fur bristling, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Someone's coming, Irina whispered, instinctively touching her belly. A minute later, a tall figure emerged from the trees. Andre tensed, then relaxed upon recognizing old Nikolai, the shaman. Good evening, the old man greeted them. Am I interrupting? Not at all. Come in. Irina stood, offering her seat. Tea? Gladly, Nikolai nodded. Sever stopped growling but kept watching the shaman with unblinking amber eyes. How's Maxim Petrovich? Nikolai asked, accepting tea. Recovering, Andre said. Had heart surgery. Doctors say he'll be home soon. The shaman sipped his tea. You didn't come just to chat, did you? Irina asked, noticing his studying gaze. Nikolai smiled. Clever girl. No, I didn't. He looked at her belly. The child you carry is special. I feel it. Andre frowned. What do you mean, special? In a good way, Nikolai reassured. 2 worlds will join in this child, taiga and city. He nodded at Sever. And the wolf will be his guardian. Andre looked baffled. Nikolai pulled a small object from his pocket and handed it to Irina. A talisman for the baby. It was a tiny bone pendant carved with a wolf's figure. Thank you, Irina said, examining it. It's beautiful. Keep it close, the shaman said, standing. Remember, beasts sense what humans cannot see. After he left, Andre stared into the stove's flames. He's strange. All that talk of spirits and 2 worlds. But there's truth in it, Irina mused, touching the pendant. Looked like he knew. Andre shrugged. Coincidence? Maybe. Grandpa always said the taiga follows rules city folk don't understand. That night, Irina dreamed strangely. She trudged through snowdrifts in a silent winter forest, drawn by distant wolf howls. Darkness deepened until a massive gray wolf with amber eyes appeared. Not Sever, but like some ancient ancestor. It stared, then led her toward golden light. Their Sosnovka home. But as she neared, smoke curled from beneath the door. Irina woke up covered in cold sweat. Andre was sleeping peacefully beside her. She placed a hand on her stomach and felt the baby moving. The dream had been so vivid, so real. Nonsense, she whispered to herself. Just a bad dream. But deep down, a quiet worry took root and stayed with her even in the morning. By the start of winter, Irina's belly had grown noticeably round. The doctor at the rural clinic assured her the pregnancy was going well, and the baby was due in late February. The snowstorms will start any day now, Anna Ilyinichna would say, stopping by in the evenings. Be careful, Irochka. In this weather, you won't make it to the hospital. Don't scare her, Andre would brush it off. We have snowmobiles at the rescue station. If needed, we'll get her there fast. Andre had insulated the house, stocked up on firewood for the whole winter, and called his wife daily from work to check on her. The old stove kept the house warm but needed constant attention. The wood burned quickly, and new logs had to be added every few hours. We should call the stove repairman, Andre said. Something's wrong with the draft. The wood burns unevenly. We'll deal with it later, Irina reassured him. The baby's due soon anyway. On that fateful day, January 15th, the temperature dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. Andre was on duty. A fire had broken out in a nearby village, and his rescue team was sent to help. Irina was left alone at home except for Sever, their wolf dog, who now never left her side. By evening, a snowstorm began. Snow piled up around the house. The wind howled in the chimney, creating an eerie noise. Irina kept feeding the stove, trying to keep the house warm. "It burns too fast," she complained to Andre over the phone. "The repairman won't come for another week," Andre replied. "Just keep adding wood. And don't forget to open the damper after the fire gets going." "Yes, I remember," Irina said, touching her belly. "The baby's very active today, kicking a lot. A future footballer," Andre laughed. "I love you. I'll be late. Don't wait up. I'll call when I'm done." After the call, Irina added more wood to the stove. The room was warm now, and sleepiness crept over her. She lay down to rest. Sever lay in the corner, his heavy head resting on his paws. Lately he barely left the house, always staying close to his owner. I should open the damper, Irina thought, but exhaustion pulled her under. She dreamed strange dreams, walking through a dark forest, trees whispering as if trying to tell her something. Then a gray shadow appeared, a huge wolf, leading her toward the light. Just like in the dream she'd had after visiting the shaman, she woke up choking. The room smelled strange and her throat burned. She tried to stand but collapsed, dizziness clouding her mind. Through the haze she saw Sever standing over her, whining desperately, trying to wake her. The damper was her last thought before everything went dark. Andre came home late that night. The storm had worsened, and the roads were nearly buried. As he reached the house, he heard Sever's howl, long, desperate cries. Something's wrong, Andre realized and rushed inside. The house smelled thick with smoke and something else that made his throat itch. He covered his face with his sleeve and ran in. In the dim light, he saw Sever circling Irina's body on the floor. "Ira!" Andre screamed, dropping beside her. He turned her over. Her face was pale, lips blue, no breath. "No, no, no." He started CPR, yelling, "Hold on, hold on." With shaking hands, he called an ambulance, threw open the windows to let in cold air, and kept trying to revive her. But Irina showed no signs of life. The ambulance took almost an hour. The only one in the district got stuck in the storm. When the medic, an older man with tired eyes, finally examined Irina, he just shook his head. "Carbon monoxide. Did she not open the stove damper?" "I thought she knew." Andre couldn't form words. The medic gently touched Irina's belly. She was pregnant. Too late now. "I can't help." "What do you mean you can't?" Andre grabbed the man's sleeve. "She's been dead for hours," the medic said softly. "No point in resuscitation. The baby's gone too." Andre let go and slowly sank to the floor beside his wife's body. Reality shattered into pieces, turning into a nightmare. "But how? How did this happen?" Andre whispered. "Carbon monoxide," the medic repeated. "A sneaky thing. No color, no smell. You fall asleep and never wake up. If you close the stove damper too soon, before the wood burns completely, the gas can't escape through the chimney. It fills the room instead." The medic stepped outside, saying he needed to fill out paperwork in the ambulance. Andre was left alone with his grief. He stroked Irina's cold hand, remembering how they'd just been planning their future, picking names for their son. He didn't notice Sever returning to the room. The wolf dog approached Irina's body quietly and stared at her for a long time, as if refusing to believe it. Then he bent down and gently licked her hand. "Go away!" Andre shouted, pushing the wolf back. "Get out!" But Sever didn't leave. He tried to nudge Irina's face, whining, even tugging at her clothes with his teeth, like he wanted to drag her away. That was the last straw. Something inside Andre snapped. Rage flooded his mind. He grabbed Sever by the scruff and dragged him outside, chaining him to the doghouse. "Stay here," he rasped, fighting back tears. Back inside, Andre sat beside his wife's body and cried for the first time in years, loud, childlike sobs. Then he called Irina's parents, his own mother, and the police station. His voice was flat, mechanical, like someone else was speaking. All night, Sever's howls echoed from the yard, long mournful cries. The neighbors shook their heads. The wolf senses death. He's mourning his mistress. Andre didn't sleep. He sat holding Irina's hand, as if hoping her fingers might twitch, as if this were all a terrible mistake. By morning, Irina's parents arrived. Her mother collapsed in hysterics. Her father smoked silently on the porch, swallowing tears. The funeral preparations began. Paperwork, a coffin, a church service. The snowstorm refused to let up, so a tractor had to clear the road to the cemetery. The school where Irina worked informed all the parents. The whole village came together, bringing food, help, or just kind words. Andre moved like a stone, mechanically doing what was needed, but inside, nothing, just a black hole swallowing all feeling. Seaver stayed chained, refusing food or water, only lifting his head to stare at the house where his mistress lay. Andre barely noticed. Grief blinded him. On the second day, an investigator arrived, routine for accidental deaths. He checked the house, the stove, asked a few questions. Classic carbon monoxide poisoning, he said. Happens often in villages, especially in winter. Stoves need care. She knew about the damper, Andre croaked. I always reminded her. The investigator shrugged. Tiredness, pregnancy. Maybe she forgot. Or fell asleep too soon. When the formalities ended, the funeral began. Irina lay in the living room in a white dress, like a bride, with fake flowers in her hair. Real ones were impossible in winter. Neighbors washed and dressed her body. Her father insisted on a church service. The priest prayed over her, swinging incense. Eternal memory, eternal rest. Andre thought bitterly, what rest? A young woman full of life, carrying a child who'll never see the world. Where's the peace in that? The funeral was on the third day. By tradition, the coffin was carried through the village to the cemetery. Andre walked behind, numb to the cold or fatigue. The graveyard stood on a hill, peaceful in summer, bleak in winter. The frozen ground had required an excavator. When the coffin was lowered, Andre threw the first handful of dirt. The thud on the wood tore through him. After, people drifted away. Andre lingered, staring at the fresh mound where his wife and unborn son now lay. Come, son, Irina's father said gently. Don't stand too long at the grave. Let's go remember her properly. At home, the wake was ready, but Andre couldn't eat. He drank vodka mechanically. It didn't dull the pain. Nothing could. When everyone left, he sat alone. A photo of Irina smiled from the table. Last summer, at Lake Baikal, wildflowers in her hair. Sever's howls cut through his thoughts. The wolf was thrashing on his chain. Andre stumbled outside, drunk. Shut up, he yelled, or I'll shoot you. But he knew he wouldn't. Despite his anger, he couldn't hurt the creature his grandfather had loved, the one he'd grown fond of himself. He unchained Sever. The wolf froze, golden eyes locked on him, then bolted toward the forest, straight for the cemetery. Andre watched him go, then returned inside. He drank by the window until he passed out, glass still in hand. Morning brought a knock. Irina's parents stood at the door. Come to the cemetery, her mother said. Visit our girl. Andre nodded, head pounding. The storm had finally passed. Weak winter sun glowed as they drove. At the cemetery gates, a crowd had gathered. People shouted, pointing. What's wrong? Irina's father asked. A wolf, someone said, digging up a grave. Which grave? Andre's blood went cold. The one from yesterday. The young woman's... Andre sprinted past the crowd. Between the crosses, he saw it. Sever, frantically tearing at Irina's grave. Half the mound was already gone. The wolf had reached the coffin lid. God, what's he doing? Irina's mother screamed. Stop him. A man raised a shovel, but Andre grabbed his arm. Don't. He's ours. He's desecrating your wife's grave, the man argued. Shoot him. Sever finally scratched through the coffin wood. Suddenly, he stopped, ears pricked, head tilted. He pressed his ear to the gap. Then Sever jumped back and let out a short, sharp howl, like a signal. At that moment, a groan came from the grave. Everyone froze, unable to believe their ears. Then people rushed to the grave, widening the hole the wolf had dug. Andre tore at the earth with his bare hands, not noticing his nails breaking or his palms bleeding. Bring shovels. Someone shouted, but be careful, there's a person in there. When they opened the coffin, Andre saw his wife's face, pale, but not the blue-gray of death. Then her eyelashes fluttered. She's alive. He screamed, pulling Irina into his arms. Call an ambulance. But there was no time to wait. They laid Irina in her father-in-law's car, and he sped toward the hospital. No one noticed Sever running after them, limping slightly but keeping up. At the hospital, Irina was rushed into intensive care. Andre paced the hallway, restless. After an hour, a young doctor emerged. Husband? He asked. Andre nodded. It's incredible. She's alive. Stable condition. How? How is this possible? Andre whispered. The chief doctor explained. It's called lethargic sleep. Very rare. The body shuts down to near death, but the brain still functions faintly. Breathing and heartbeat become too weak to detect without equipment. But the medic said she was dead. In a home without tools, it's almost impossible to tell the difference, the doctor admitted. Even I might have missed it. How did she survive 3 days, and then underground? In that state, the body barely uses oxygen. The doctor said. The coffin had just enough, but he hesitated. Without the wolf, Andre understood. Saver saved them both. The doctor frowned. About both, we did an ultrasound. The fetus is alive, with a heartbeat, but it's critical. No false hopes. We need time. Andre sank onto a chair, legs weak. Can I see her? Not yet. She's unconscious. Go home, rest. We'll call if anything changes. But Andre stayed all night outside the ICU. By morning, they let him in briefly. Irina lay pale, tangled in tubes and wires, an oxygen mask and foredrip, but breathing. Ira. Andre touched her hand gently. I'm here. You came back. Please wake up. No response. A nurse nudged him. Time to go. We'll call you. As he left, he nearly collided with Shaman Nikolai Semyonovich, who'd somehow heard what happened. She lives, the old man stated. Not a question. Yes, but unconscious, Andre said. The baby, doctors aren't sure. The shaman shook his head. The wolf pulled her from the earth, but not the darkness. Her spirit wanders between worlds. What? She needs a guide back. The wolf can help. Andre remembered Sever limping after the car. He's outside. They won't let him in. They must, the shaman insisted. He's her anchor to the living. Andre, too exhausted to question miracles, nodded. I'll talk to the doctor. To his surprise, the young doctor agreed. After what you've told me, I believe their bond might help. But rules are rules. He gets sanitized first. Andre sprinted outside. Seaver waited under a bench, ears pricking up. Come, they'll let you see her. Hospital staff gasped as Andre led the wolf down the hall. An orderly crossed herself. Others stared but didn't interfere. At the door, a nurse wiped Sever's paws and muzzle with antiseptic. He endured it, only sneezing at the alcohol smell. Inside, Sever sniffed Irina's hand, whined softly, then jumped onto the bed, laying his head over her heart. Hey, no! A nurse protested, but the doctor held up a hand. Wait, watch. Minutes passed in silence. Then, Irina's fingers twitched. Her hand rose weakly, brushing Seaver's fur. The heart monitor beeped faster. She's responding, the doctor whispered. Irina's eyelids fluttered, then opened. Her gaze focused slowly on Sever. Sever. Her voice was a rasp. Andre grabbed her hand. Ira, you're back. She smiled faintly. Andre. What happened later? The doctor cut in. Rest now. How do you feel? Irina frowned. Strange, like I was asleep dreaming. Sever was there, calling me. Andre looked at the wolf with new awe. The baby. Irina touched her stomach, anxiously alive, the doctor assured. But we need more tests. Rest now. He shooed everyone out, except Sever. Let him stay. He's helping. By the next day, Irina was fully awake, weak but lucid. My baby is really alive? Doctors confirmed, strong heartbeat. Against all odds, the fetus is stable. Alone with Andre that evening, Irina whispered, Tell me everything. Andre clutched her hand. Carbon monoxide. You forgot the damper. When I came home, you were gone. We buried you. His voice broke. On the third day, Sever dug you up. He heard you. I knew it, Irina said. I heard him howling. I was trapped like underwater, but I heard him calling me back. The doctor entered, nodding. You experienced lethargic sleep, a near-death state where vital signs drop too low to detect without machines. You're lucky. Is this from carbon monoxide? Andre asked. Most likely a combination of poisoning and the body's unique reaction, the doctor explained. Such cases are very rare, but they are documented in medical literature. There were times when people were buried with bells tied to their wrists, just in case they were buried alive. What about the baby? Irina asked. How could he survive? That's even more surprising, the doctor admitted. The The fetus showed extraordinary resistance to hypoxia. Maybe it's because during pregnancy, the baby already lives in low oxygen conditions. He paused, then added, "But the real mystery is your wolf. How did he know you were alive? Medicine can't explain that." Irina reached out, stroking Seaver, who lay beside her. Maybe not everything in this world can be explained by science. Suddenly a nurse peeked into the room. There's a strange visitor here. We didn't let him in, but he's been sitting at the entrance for 3 days. They say he's a shaman from a nearby settlement." "Nikolai Semyonovich?" Andrei said in surprise. "Let him in, please." The old man entered the room, leaning on a carved staff. When he saw Irina sitting on the bed, he smiled. "The soul has returned to its home." "Good." He stepped closer and placed a small bundle on the nightstand. "This is for you and the baby." Irina unwrapped the cloth and saw the same wolf-shaped amulet the shaman had given her before. She thought she had lost it. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "The spirits returned it," the old man replied simply. "Wear it always. It will protect you." Seaver lifted his head and watched the shaman closely. Nikolai Semyonovich reached out, and the wolf allowed him to touch his head. "You fulfilled your purpose," the old man whispered to the wolf in a language no one else understood. A week later, Irina was discharged from the hospital. The doctors insisted on regular checkups. Her case was unique, and they wanted to make sure neither her health nor the baby's development was harmed. Returning to the house where the tragedy happened was hard. Irina froze at the doorstep, pressing a hand to her chest. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. Andrei hugged her tightly. "We'll get through it together." I called the stove repairman. He checked everything and installed carbon monoxide detectors. "This won't happen again." Sever, who had slipped under Irina's arm, whined softly, as if encouraging her. "All right," she nodded. "We'll try." The first night, Irina barely slept, afraid to close her eyes, as if it might drag her back into that terrible unconsciousness. Andrei never left her side, and Sever lay by the bed, lifting his head now and then to check if everything was okay. Slowly, life returned to normal. The village was buzzing with the news. The story of Irina's miraculous survival spread not just through the district but across the whole region. Journalists came, wanting to film a story, but Andrei refused. It was too soon to turn their personal tragedy into public entertainment. A month later, another turning point came. For the first time since the incident, Irina lit the stove. Her hands shook as she set the kindling on fire, but Andrei was there, watching her every move. "See?" He pointed at the damper. "Now it opens automatically when the stove is lit." The repairman installed a special mechanism. "Thank you," Irina whispered, squeezing her husband's hand. "For being here with me." By the end of February, Irina's belly had grown even rounder. The baby kicked often, and every movement felt like a miracle to the parents. "You know," Irina said one evening, watching the sunset from the kitchen window, "I think we're meant to stay here, in Sosnovka." Andrei looked at her in surprise. "Really? What about the city, civilization?" Irina shook her head. "There's something special here. These people, this taiga, they accepted us. They saved us." She placed a hand on her stomach. "Our child should grow up here, where two worlds meet." Andrei frowned. "Two worlds?" "Do you remember what the shaman said?" Irina smiled. "About how our child would unite the world of the taiga and the world of the city. Maybe there's some truth to that." Andrei hugged his wife, placing a hand on her belly. "Then we'll stay. I've come to love this place too, even though it tried to take the most precious thing from me." The labor started on the first day of spring. Snow still lay in deep drifts, but the air carried the promise of warmth. Irina woke in the middle of the night with a familiar sensation. Her water had broken. "Andrei," she whispered, "I think it's time." They got to the hospital quickly. Andrei had arranged in advance with his colleagues from emergency services to keep a snowmobile on standby. To everyone's surprise, the birth went unusually smoothly for a first-time mother. Just 3 hours, and a strong, loud-voiced boy with a piercing gaze was born. "Maxim," Irina murmured as they placed the baby on her chest. Andrei, as they'd agreed, couldn't speak, overwhelmed with emotion. He just stood there, staring at their little miracle, their son, who had survived against all odds and was born healthy. When Irina and the baby were discharged, Seaver was waiting at the house. The The wolf sniffed cautiously at the bundle Andre carried inside. "Look, Seaver." Irina gently pulled back the blanket, revealing the baby's face. "This is Maxim. He's part of our family now." Seaver studied the child for a long moment, then stepped closer and lightly touched the tiny hand peeking out from the swaddle with his nose. The baby didn't cry. Instead, he stopped fussing and stared curiously at the big gray creature. "Now we're a real family," Andre said, smiling. 2 weeks later, Maxim Petrovich arrived. The old man, lively after his treatment, wanted to meet his great-grandson in person. He'd heard the story of Irina's miraculous survival secondhand, but didn't know the details. "Tell me everything from the beginning," he demanded once the initial excitement over the baby faded. Andre recounted everything, finding Irina lifeless, her revival at the cemetery, Sever's role. "I always said there was something special about that wolf," Maxim muttered, watching Sever lie protectively by the crib. At the baby's christening, Shaman Nikolai Semyonovich came. He studied Sever, then called Maxim Petrovich over. "Remember the pouch I gave you before you met him?" The hunter nodded. It held a wolf's fang, the fang of a guardian spirit from an old legend. "They say when a man saves a wolf, and a wolf saves a man, a bond forms across generations. Now that spirit will protect your family. What are you talking about?" Andre frowned, overhearing. "Some things can't be explained," the shaman smiled. "Sometimes you just have to believe, like how Sever believed Irina was alive when everyone else thought she was dead." Andre silently watched Irina nursing their son and Sever lying guard at the doorstep. Whatever anyone said about spirits and connections between worlds, one thing was certain. Without Sever, his family and happiness wouldn't exist. Irina had changed after her ordeal. She no longer feared the taiga. Instead, she often took long walks, sometimes with Sever, sometimes alone. She claimed she now understood the forest differently, as if she could hear its voice. "You know what's strangest?" she told Andre once. "I remember what I saw while I was gone. I wasn't here, not in our world. It was bright and peaceful. A woman held my hand and said it wasn't my time yet. Then a wolf, gray like Sever but bigger, came and led me back." "You think it wasn't just a dream?" Andre asked. Irina gazed at their sleeping son. "I don't know, but something changed. I feel things I never noticed before, like a veil has lifted." When locals asked Andre how he felt after everything, he always answered the same: "Everything's different. I listen more, even to those who can't speak." And Irina, watching Seaver let little Maxim tug his ears, would add, "Sometimes the voice that saves you doesn't come from human lips. And if you hear it through earth and stone, don't be afraid to trust it." 5 years later, gamekeeper Maxim Petrovich sat on his grandson's porch, watching his 5-year-old great-grandson play with Sever. Older now, but still strong. The boy tossed a stick, and the wolf leaped to catch it despite his limp. "Grandpa, tell the story again, about how Sever saved Mama," the boy begged, climbing onto the old man's lap. "Again?" Maxim chuckled. "You know it by heart. Tell it anyway. Especially the part about the voice from under the ground." The old man sighed and began. "It was a cold winter, when even the wisest among us missed what a simple wolf saw." Sever, hearing the familiar tale, walked over and sat by the porch, resting his heavy head on his paws. The setting sun gleamed in his amber eyes, which held a wisdom beyond human understanding. Irina stepped outside, smiling at the scene. She'd changed over the years, her face more mature, strands of gray in her hair, but her eyes still held the same warmth. "Dinner soon," she said. "Andre will be back from his shift any minute." Little Maxim nodded, but stayed put. "Grandpa hasn't finished the story." Irina moved closer, listening. Though she knew every word, the tale still touched her heart. Maxim Petrovich paused, looking at Sever. "Thank you," he said softly, "for hearing a voice no one else could." For a moment, something almost human flickered in the wolf's gaze, understanding, gratitude, and a loyalty that crossed the boundaries between worlds. Irina knelt beside Seaver, wrapping her arms around his neck and pressing her cheek to his fur. "Every day I thank fate for you," she whispered. "You gave me a second life, both of us." Little Maxim joined the hug. "I love you too, Sever. You're the best wolf ever." Inside the house, a simple wooden frame held a photo on the living room wall, Andre and Irina with baby Maxim, and beside them, a gray wolf with amber eyes. At the bottom, someone had written, "Family is those who hear your voice, even when you're silent." Thanks for reading. What do you think of this story? Share your thoughts. Your comments mean a lot to us.